Hi, welcome to my channel Mostly Knitting. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're new here, this is a weekly podcast where I talk mostly about the knitting that I've been doing during the week, and I also put out regular tutorials. So it is Wednesday the 21st of February and I'm recording from Sydney, Australia. So I usually start with my finished objects, and I do have a finished object this week, and that is the Skimmer socks by Sheila Stromberg. This is a free pattern and it's also got video tutorials to help you along the way. It's a toe-up sock, and yeah, it's a great pattern. Uses very little yarn, uses only about 34 to 36 grams, obviously depending on the size of your foot. I used, this is some leftover 3 Mums sock yarn for most of the socks, and I think I didn't quite, well, I know I didn't have quite enough. I had to use a little bit of Vespa sock yarn for the trim. So these are no-show socks that actually stay up in your shoes, which I really like. And obviously, because there's very little yarn, it's a very quick knit as well. It's also really good walking knitting for me. I find when I'm walking, I don't want too much weight off the needles, and I also don't want to be carrying too much yarn. So for me, it's a really great pattern for that reason. So this is my 6th pair. I felt like I wanted to build up my wardrobe of no-show socks. So after 6, I feel like I'm okay for a while. I could have almost one every day of the week, and I don't obviously wear them every day. Yeah, so I'm really happy that those are off the needles though. Right, my next segment is going to be Friend from the Vault, and actually I thought I'd just mention why I call it Friend from the Vault. It was originally Faux from the Vault, like F-O from the Vault, and so it was something that I'd knit earlier. But I think it was Sarah Loves Donuts, who sort of said, oh, faux sounds like foe, F-O-E, like your enemy. And she said you should call it Friend from the Vault because it's, it's your friend. It's something you've made earlier and that you've, known for a while, or you've worn for a while, and you like it and you want to share about it. So that's how it ended up being called Friend from the Vault. So my Friend from the Vault, which is what I am wearing, is the Novice sweater, which I've turned into a top by Petite knit. And I misspoke last week. I thought the no frill sweater was my first Petite knit pattern, but actually this is my the Novice sweater is my first Petite knit pattern, and it is a very basic pattern. There's no short rows or anything in it, but I actually added short rows because I knew I wanted the back neckline higher, and that is something that I had promised to do a tutorial on, adding short rows to a pattern. And I think this one, actually, I will discuss how I added short rows to this one because it is otherwise a very plain sweater. So I do plan to do that video, and I will, and I'll use this pattern as a reference. I won't give the numbers away but I will talk about, I can give, the cast on stitches that I used, and then how I actually did, how I calculated how to do the short rows for this. So I actually did 10 short rows, so 5 sets of 2 short rows to raise the back neckline. So I'll talk a little bit about what the yarn I used and everything. This was actually my second version. I'll try on the first version in a minute, but it's just a black. I did this black one. So I'll talk about this one first, and then I'll talk about the black one was my first one. So this one here is actually it's Leading Men sock yarn, Leading Men Fibre Arts in Soliloquy is the base, and the colorway is Minty Fresh, and it's actually a gradient. I'll put a picture of the gradient set up there. And so if I stand up, you'll be able to see that I used the darker color at the top and then gradiated down to the lighter color. And I used a Mohair with it, and it was the Novice Sweater Mohair edition, I guess is the one that I used. And the Mohair that I used was Rowan Kidsilk Haze in the colorway Gem. So originally I knit just the Soliloquy, not with Mohair, but just the Soliloquy. I used that for another top, but I held it by itself, not with any Mohair. And the color changes, I'll show a picture of it up here. I don't have a picture of me wearing it, and I never actually wore it. I really didn't like the really jarring color changes, and like it's still a good gradient, but for me in a top, like it might have been fine in a shawl, but in a top it just looked like boom, 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 like really stripy, and I didn't like that at all. Whereas holding it with a Mohair, I just think it looks like the Mohair sort of blends the gradient, like the changes out a little bit. And I have actually worn this. I made a top out of it because I wanted to be able to wear, I only had enough yarn for a top anyway, and I also wanted to be able to wear it over like high-waisted skirts, so I made it fairly cropped. So I'll talk a little bit about what I did with the pattern. So I made the smallest size, which was a 36-inch size, and everything that I did for this one was the same as for this one. So I made the 36-inch size. My gauge was a bit tighter, and mine ended up 34 inches. So the pattern gauge is 21 stitches, so mine must have been about 22. And that's fine. 34 inches is still 2 inches of positive ease, which is nice and comfortable. I will say that the sleeves look quite puffy, and actually I forgot to mention how many stitches I had and like how much I reduced. I think I actually was going for this kind of puffy look, probably because I sort of looked at the, you know, it sort of is a bit of an oversized sweater. But to be able to sort of finish it off, I think if I hadn't, I did quite a rapid decrease here and then a 1x1 rib. I'll put down exactly what I decreased to. So obviously this is my modification because it's meant to be a sweater, not a top. And then I did twisted rib at the neckline, which the pattern is just normal ribbing. I did twisted rib at the neckline and the sleeves, and actually on the bottom as well. I just like a twisted rib. It's a little bit neater, I think, than a 1x1 rib, and it also, for me, it looks a little bit more feminine. So the short rows that I added, I will do a proper video where I actually talk about it, but usually I start with a rule of thirds. So the pattern, if you look at Petite Knit in her picture, the neckline is very high, and so I used the needles that were recommended, which is a 3mm needle for the ribbing and a 4mm needle for the body. But I was a bit worried. It's 88 stitches. I can tell you that amount. I'm not going to give you all the rest of the secret sauce. It's a yoked sweater, so there's, you know, regular increases down the yoke. The cast on for my size, which is the smallest, is 88 stitches, and I was really worried about that being too high. I mean, because I've made enough sweaters that 3mm needle, 88 stitches, you know, yeah, that's just going to be, at this gauge, that's going to be too tight. So I cast on 96 stitches, and then when it came to the first increase, I just increased less frequently than like what I would have for 88, and I got to the same number, and from there continued on with the rest of the pattern as written. But because I didn't want it so high up my neck, as like was sort of shown in the picture, it was actually quite high, I cast on an extra 8 stitches, so 96 stitches. So now I'll talk about the short rows. The rule with short rows, at least for the very beginning, if you add them just under, I'll do a proper video on it, but I'll just mention it just briefly here. Just underneath the ribbing, so after you finish the ribbing, you can add a wedge of short rows. And the rule is generally that, like, if you make the center back your beginning of round, if you imagine that you have it in thirds, so you would have your front third, side third, side third. So third here, third, third. So you would knit around a third of your stitches. So for me, from the beginning of round, 96 is 32. My mental math is suffering a bit. 32. So middle of the back, I'd knit around 32 stitches. Then I'd purl back around past the beginning of round, go another 32 stitches. And then, so that's the furthest point. After that, you would decrease, so do it less, and instead of going to you'd go maybe, I think I did 4 stitches. All of this is actually on my Ravelry page as well. I did 4 stitches before the previous turn, so I guess that would have been like 32 on both sides, and then 4 stitches before the previous turn, so just a bit under an inch. And for me, I wanted to do 5 of them, so I'll flesh this all out later in a separate video, but that's kind of the idea. The furthest away is a third from the beginning of round marker, and after that I did sort of decreasing short rows, and then I did one where I just picked them all up and resolved. Then I worked the rest of the pattern as written, but what that has done is that my back is sitting higher. It's not choking me up the front. Like, it's still pretty high. If you think about it, that's still pretty high. I can't even imagine what it would have been like if I did 88 stitches and no short rows. But yes, that certainly has raised the back neckline. And yeah, I'm happy with it. I'm a little bit like sort of the puffiness of the sleeves. I probably, maybe if I was to do it again, I would maybe take less stitches off on the sleeves and keep more for the body. In which case, and if I didn't want quite so much maybe I just, in the last increase, I'd reduce the number of increases by however, because the body I think is fine. So let's say I had 200 stitches on the body, and I don't remember what I had, so I'm not giving away anything here, but let's say I had 70 for the sleeves. If that was the case, 200 and then sort of 70, 300, whatever that ends up being, I would just like maybe make it maybe 62 stitches or something. Like I just would want to get rid of about that much, say. So I'd just maybe make it 62 instead of 70 stitches for the sleeves, but keep the body the same number. I hope that kind of makes sense. So if I was to make it again, I would just be taking off less stitches for the sleeves, keep the same number of stitches for the body, which means on my last increase, I probably need about maybe 16 less stitches, and they would be less for the sleeves, but same for the body. Hope that makes sense. Yeah, so other than that, really, it is a very straightforward pattern. It's called the Novice sweater because it's meant to be for like a newbie sweater knitter, which is why there are no short rows in it. And it does explain a little bit more about, you know, just like a little bit more hand holding around gauge and that kind of stuff in the pattern. So, and I think I knit this in, I knit this one in maybe, I know I finished this one in September 2020 because the day I finished this one, I cast this one on. So I must have made the black one first and then decided, yes, I've got an idea for this green yarn in this top that I never wear. Why don't I turn that into one of these? And yeah, I actually do. I like it, and I think it is a good basic pattern, but I would definitely, for me, the two things, add short, well, I suppose a few things, more stitches for the neck, add short rows, and less stitches for the sleeves, just to not have this sort of puffy, you know, exaggerated, not that there's anything wrong with that, it's definitely, but it's a design feature. Like you can see, it's quite like puffy, the sleeves are quite puffy. Anyway, so that's my friend from the vault. So I'm going to start with my works in progress, but I think I'm going to change so that I can try some of them on. Right, so my works in progress, I had one finished object which brought me back down to 5 works in progress, and then of course I cast on another one. I hadn't planned to, but my mum mentioned that she actually wouldn't mind some skimmer socks. I think I mentioned that last week, that maybe she wouldn't mind trying a pair. So I found this yarn, which is Dingo Dyeworks Ridgey Didge. I can't remember the colorway, but this was some leftovers from my ebb dress, and I had about 40 grams, so plenty for that. My mum has smaller feet than I do, so I think I only need something like 36 grams-ish, and so 40 grams is plenty, especially because my mum's feet are smaller. So I just cast that on, and I went for a walk this morning and did the toe. So yep, that's for my mum, but because her feet are smaller than mine, we sort of worked out, she tried on one of mine. I think the width for mine will probably work okay for her, but definitely she needs it shorter. So when I get to the bit where I'm working underneath the foot, I'll have to be trying that on her. And once I sort of get the numbers right, then maybe I can make her a few pairs, but this one is my first one for my mum. So I've already talked about the pattern, but that's just a new work in progress, making another one. And, you know, as I said before, that's great for walking and knitting. My other works in progress, I'm wearing one at the moment. So I would like to show you, I have finished my sleeve. I haven't woven in the ends, but I finished my first sleeve. I've made it pretty long. So this is the Armour Sweater by Anchorstrick, and it's a test knit, and it's my first test knit in nearly 10 years. I haven't done one in ages, but I saw this one and I thought, oh, I'll reach out and see. And I actually knew I had yarn that would work in stash, so I didn't have to wait for yarn. And there was about a month window for making it. And I thought, yeah, I can make a sweater in a month. And in fact, where I'm at right now is actually enough for the test knit. You needed to get past the yoke and do one sleeve, but I'd like to finish it. The test knit finishes in about a week. Well, obviously I want to finish it. I don't want to wear it. I mean, it's not winter here for a while, but you know, I want to finish it, and I'm going to finish it, but I'm really going to shoot for trying to finish it in a week. So where it was last week, I had done the body, and I think I'd done maybe up to here, and I'd blocked it. And I blocked it on the needles just to see how it grew. And I'm making the smallest size, which is a 37-inch size, but my gauge must be a little bit tighter because after blocking, it was 34 inches. Before blocking it was 30. So because it's like it is a textured pattern, and it's not a rib, but it has some pearls in it. It definitely blocked out a little bit widthwise, but it didn't block out at all lengthwise. So the yarn that I'm using is Madelinetosh Dandelion, which has a little bit of linen in it, and that's the colorway Paper. And this is Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair in the colorway Oat. And I think they go really nicely together, and I think it works really well for this sweater. So I really like that funnel neck. It blocked out to still stay pretty, pretty upright, which I quite like. Not super stiff or anything, but just still with some, some actual definition there. My needles, there was sort of a range suggested in the pattern, and I used the smallest size. So this is a 3.5 mil for the collar and a 4 millimeter for the body, but you could have used, like some people were using 4 millimeter and 4.5 millimeter, but I used sort of the smaller end, so 3.5 mil and 4 mil. And yeah, I made that sleeve pretty long. I noticed that it didn't grow in length, so that helped me for just working out when to stop, that basically, and I chose to knit it quite long. The other thing that I did, I was a bit unsure about with the sleeve decreases. The sleeve decreases start at 32 rows, and they're staggered 32 rows, 32 rows, 32 rows. And I just knew at 32 rows, I was like, my arm doesn't decrease for a while. So I actually did 64 rows and then started the decreases. And then I think I did them, there were only like 3 decreases in that part of the pattern. And so I did, I think I had 64 rows, and then I did 16 rows and did another decrease, 16 rows and did another decrease. So it they ended up like at the same point, 3 decreases by this point, but instead of here, 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 they were like here, here, here. And for me, that's I could tell as I was trying it on, oh yeah, now like my arm is just starting to get a bit narrower, and I would just do not want tight sleeves, like that's just not comfortable. And the rest of the pattern has some ease, so I didn't want this to be all super tight and the rest of it loose. So yep, so I've got a bit more in the body to go. I really don't know how long I want to make it. I will just, knit maybe 8 rows, try it on, knit 8 rows, try it on kind of with something that I think I would wear it with, maybe some like I don't know, pants, but yeah, probably pants. This looks like something I'd wear with pants or jeans. Try it on with the kind of thing I want to wear it with and see where it's hitting. Yep, and obviously have another whole sleeve to do, but I love second sleeves because I know exactly what I'm doing. There's absolutely no thought involved except just where am I up to? Am I up to a decrease? Yeah, so, and of course that's what I have to be really careful when I do my first sleeve, just to make sure that I'm writing everything down, or if it's visible, I can see what I actually did. But yeah, I just wrote it down along the way. It is kind of visible, but yeah. Anyway, I love it. I think the pattern's beautiful. I'm really loving everybody's different versions of it. But I'm going to take it off now because it's hot, really hot here. So that's my second work in progress. I had the new Skimmer socks and the armor sweater. Let me see. My next one is the Stockholm Slipover. So this morning this afternoon, I got to recording and I was like, I haven't done anything on that Stockholm Slipover again. And I thought, you know what? It's not going to take me very long to pick up those neckline stitches. I'll just quickly do that. And honestly, picking up the neckline stitches, just picking them up, 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Like, why do I put these things off? 10 minutes just to pick up the stitches, and then I knit 5 rows. Like, hello, it took almost, fluff everywhere. It took almost no time. So at the moment, I'll talk about this pattern. The Stockholm Slipover, I am knitting it, it's another Petite knit pattern. I'm knitting it out of, let me grab the yarn. This is Rowan Felted Tweed DK in the colorway Scree, and Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair in soft blue. And I'm knitting the body on a 4.5 millimeter needle, which is recommended, and the ribbing, which I've only just started, on a 3.5 millimeter needle. And I'm knitting the smallest size, which is I think something like a 36 inch. I'll put down what size it actually is, and I am getting gauge, which is 19 stitches. So it's pretty, it's a pretty big, pretty large gauge. So I've got needles hanging off everywhere because I've got the body on needles and yarn hanging off. which look isn't a big deal because honestly, so I've got 2 balls of yarn off the body, 2 balls of yarn off the neck, but I'll be finished the neck in no time. So with the neckline, I use the smaller needles, you know, which is quite substantially smaller, 3.5 millimeters versus 4 millimeter. You can see it's flaring a bit because it's got the, I've got it on a really long cable so I could try it on. Right, so, oh, it looks funny because of the cable. Let me pull the cable in. Okay, so I haven't bound it off yet. Let me just talk about what I did for the neckline. I picked up a little bit less stitches. The pattern says to pick up 1 for 1 everywhere. So I just find that a little bit, it's quite a lot, especially on the vertical. But I also recognize that the needle size is substantially smaller, which is probably one of the reasons, but I still felt like that was going to be a little bit too many stitches here. So I picked up 1 for 1 along here and along the diagonal, you know, because the diagonal is definitely longer than going straight up. So you want a few more stitches, but here I did 3 for 4. Normally I would do 2 for 3 on the vertical, but given the smaller needle, I did 3 for 4. So as a result, I ended up with about 10% less stitches around the neckline, but I think that looks fine. You know, I don't think that's like, it's not puckering. So I've done 5 rows, and then I think I'm going to do 2 rows of, 2 rows of, you know, net 1, slip 1, net 1, slip 1, whatever the, you know, this setup before the tubular bind off. And that's what I'll do, which will, like, that will take me almost no time. So, I mean, I still have to like allocate maybe half an hour or whatever, but I'll definitely feel better about working the rest of it when it looks sort of all nice up here. And I reckon I'll probably do the same for the sleeves. Now the sleeves are looking quite large, but obviously, you know, when I pick up stitches, that will bring it in a bit. And the other thing is I don't want it too, like, this isn't a vest like that I would wear with nothing underneath. This is a vest that I'd be wearing with like a collared, like for me, a collared button-up shirt. And usually that has sort of sleeves that sort of are out here. So I wouldn't want the vest to be like bunching up the shirt, if that makes sense. So I actually think the size of this is looking really good. I'm happy. Sorry, I am like multi-attached. Yeah, I think it's going to be really good. And I actually find that when I do something like this, it makes me much more excited about getting on and getting it done, because like the sort of, I can see it looking like coming together. And yeah, I'm just going straight down. I'm not going to do any waist shaping. And I think that's all I wanted to mention for this one. So a tiny little bit of progress from last week. Not a lot, but like literally that probably only took me 40 minutes. So that is Stockholm Slipover by Petite Knit. That's number 3. Let me see, my next work in progress is one other garment, and that is Camisole number 4. By My Favourite Things Knitwear, and I'm knitting this using Knitting for Olive Pure Silk in Raspberry Pink on a 3mm needle, which is a tiny bit smaller needle, so I can get gauge. I am knitting the smallest size, and I haven't done any work on this from last week, so you can skip ahead and if you've already seen this, but like my focus has definitely been the armour sweater, and also I've been doing things where I've really needed vanilla knitting, and at this point, I guess the body is vanilla knitting, but I had planned to do the straps before moving on to the body, and I only have, like, I'm on my last ball. So I thought, like, I'm definitely at the point where I want to kind of at least do, or at least wind off some yarn for the straps first, and then work down the body. So no more progress on that, but I will, I think after the armour sweater, I'll come back to this. I don't plan to cast on any new garments for a little bit until because I'm feeling a little bit like just a few too many that have been hanging on for a while, if that makes sense. You get a bit like, come on, let's get this one off the needles. And I won't if I start something else. So the Skimmer socks don't count though. Like, they really don't count, because that's just like walking knitting. So, I mean, yeah, it's like it's not even there, right? So 2 more works in progress, the half and half wrap. Now this one actually got a lot of progress. Where is it? Here it is. I have almost finished the first ball. So this is the half and half wrap by Purl Soho. I'm using linen quill, which is the recommended yarn, Purl Soho linen quill. This is Baby Bird Blue And the other yarn, if I can find it, I keep doing this. The other yarn is Red Poppy. So yeah, I've done got heaps of progress on this, and I'll explain at the end of the podcast when I talk about my week where I was knitting this. But you can see how much I've done here. And so that marker is where I was at last week. So let me see, last week I'd done 36 ridges and now I'm up to 64. And I knit, I think I had 38 grams of yarn left, and I don't even know how much that is, maybe a gram. So yes, I did more on this than past weeks. And yeah, it's just, I just love having something like this on the needles when I just know I need to not be thinking at all. And it's still portable too. Like it's not, I wouldn't be walking and knitting with it, but I can definitely, it is portable. And I've got this little stopper on here because these so many times just come flying off the end. And thankfully the yarn is sort of toothy enough that it hasn't unraveled at all. I can just see like 15 stitches just hanging out in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, no. Yes, so anyway, none of them have actually dropped down, which is really good because there's short rows around there. So I really don't want, like they all have a short row around them. So maybe that's why because they've got a little collar hanging onto them. And anyway, they haven't fallen. So yes, so I think that's how many are on, that means there's like about 60 stitches here. I have 260 stitches on the needle. So my rows are now about 200 stitches instead of 260. So they're definitely going a little bit faster, like noticeably faster. And yes, so very happy with how that's coming along. And my last work in progress is fluff. There's so much fluff in what I'm knitting at the moment, is the Sophie scarf, another Petite knit. It's nuts. Anyway, lots of Petite knit patterns. Another Petite knit pattern, this is a repeat knit for me, and so I know what I'm doing. This is Rowan, where's the yarn? Rowan Patina in the colorway Confetti, and it's sort of like an alpaca silk wool blend, I think. And this is for my mum. So I think I'm making the large size, which is 30, you get up to 33 stitches, and I'm up to 29 at the moment. So I'm almost, well, I don't know about almost, I've got probably about that much to go before I get up to 33, and then I'll start on my way back down. And I'm just keeping the other one that I made for my mum sort of alongside it. And that's what I will do. When I get halfway, I will block it, because her last one was 43 inches from tip to tip, and so I'd like this one to be the same. So I'm going to block it halfway and just see, like, because if it hasn't quite, every yarn's a little bit different. This has great yardage. This is 250 meters, and I think I need about 140 meters, so you can easily get it out of one ball. I'm using 3.5mm needles, which is the recommended needle size, and this is technically a DK weight yarn, even though it's really large gauge. So yeah, I've actually done quite a bit of progress on that one as well. Right, so that's all my works in progress. I might just quickly see if I can grab that red poppy, because I do want to show it with against this one. Right, so I just quickly grabbed the red poppy yarn so I could show you, and that's my little swatch, and for the half and half wrap. And yeah, I really like those two colors together. So I've already got a second ball wound up, ready to go. To continue on there. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh yes, I am just doing the regular wrap and turn short rows, not German short rows or anything. And I'm also, see, look at that, it just wants to slide right off. Good thing I have that little stopper. Put one on the other end. And I'm just slipping the first stitch. And the thing about I'm slipping the first stitch knitwise. And what that does is it keeps the garter ridge. You can just see that's the marker there. It keeps the garter ridge so it doesn't have like that slip stitch effect or the I-cord type edge effect where it sort of, it actually still looks like the bumps. So it keeps that continuity of the bumps, but it just, when you slip the first stitch, it just pushes that first stitch closer to the second stitch. And it keeps it a little bit tidier, so which I like. So that's what I like. I think I also really like the slip stitches or the I-cord edging as well. But for this, my first one, I wanted to sort of keep it as close to the pattern as possible, which is not really normally what I do. I usually just go all over the place, but I did lots and lots of swatching, and I also really quite liked the wrap and turn short rows, how they turned out. So yes, that's my works in progress. Now you might have noticed I put on the black top because I thought, oh well, you know, it's my friend from the vault section. Today I have friends from the vault. So I had the green one on earlier. This is the black one that I made, which was the first one that I made. And this was out of Wollmeise Lacegarn and the colorway Schwarz, which is the black. And I also had Isager silk mohair in black. And you can probably, I don't know if you can tell, maybe you can't tell very well, there's like some variation like in the silk mohair, so you do see it's not like solid black. There's like a little bit of, I mean it's pretty black, but there's like a little bit of light shading and stuff in it. And yeah, so this is another, it's pretty cropped so that I can wear it with high-waisted pants and skirts. And that's, I guess that's one of the things that I really love about knitting is I'm like, okay, what do I want? I want high, you know, I want it cropped to wear with short-waisted, and I want this feature, and I want the, you know, that feature, and let me put it all together, and that's what I want to make. And I guess it's like sewing as well. It's like, I want it a little bit shorter, or a little bit longer, or a little bit wider, or with some bust darts, or, you know, we get to make what it is we want. We don't have to be like looking on the racks in multiple stores to try to find exactly what it is we want. We get to make it. So yes, one of the really lovely things about creating. So yes, this I may as well show you from the back as well. I did the same thing, the short rows. So the back is a little bit higher, and similarly, I also had 96 stitches. So I did these two pretty much exactly the same. And yeah, okay, so what am I up to now? Purchases. No purchases this week. I did spend a bit of time on the Wool Factory website because I was going to be sending some yarn to Amanda in the UK, and she was going to bring it to her with Adelaide, when she came to Adelaide, and then send it to me in Australia. All because I bought the one wrong yarn for the Avena sweater, like one ball, a 2-pound ball of yarn, and because the shipping here is like 17 pounds. So of course, when I was, you know, looking online, I found some Rowan, I think some kind of cashmere haze that I wasn't like desperately wanting, but I was like, oh, I'll make it up to the 30 pounds for free shipping and etc, etc. And then, but I was looking at the pricing, and it seemed to be, the actual balls seemed cheaper than on the website. And that was because they had my shipping address in Australia. So the whole cart was cheaper, but then extra shipping to come to me. And then when I switched it to Amanda in the UK, it was still less, but not substantially less. And even when Amanda brought it out to Australia, she'd still have to, like, you know, and which I would pay her, the shipping cost to send it in Australia, and she'd have to line up at the post office and mail, you know, whatever address, and mail it to me. It was going to be a difference of like $8 saving. And I thought, for the hassle of her having it, packing it, bringing it here, going to the post office, sending it to me, and then I would also be buying yarn that I wasn't particularly looking for right now, I thought, no, this is silly. So I've messaged Amanda and said, thank you very much for the offer, but like, you know, it's too much hassle and doesn't really make sense. And I'm going to just find myself buying yarn that I don't actually want it or need at the moment. So what I've decided to do is, until I'm actually going to make Avena, or pretty close to making, I'm just going to leave it. I will order the right yarn or the right color with something else, because I'm sure something, like, I really love the Drops yarn, and they sell Drops, and I love the Drops alpaca, which I made my still light tunic, 2 still light tunics out of Drops alpaca. It's really lovely and soft. It's 100% alpaca. So I reckon I'll probably buy like a sweater quantity of that, and that would have just been too much to send, like, for Amanda to bring and whatever. And I also think, like, I'll just get it shipped here when I'm ready to make that. Like in the middle of winter, I might make another still light tunic in Drops alpaca. All of that to say, I didn't make any purchases this week. I really can talk. I didn't. I was going to, but I didn't. Yes. So moving on. But I will buy that one ball of yarn for like the correct, and I'll put pictures up of what I'm talking about. Otherwise, if you didn't watch last week, you don't know what I'm talking about. But I'll buy it when I'm closer to making it, and maybe when I also want some Drops 100% alpaca, or I might find some other yarn there that speaks to me that I'm really wanting. Right, so that's it for purchases, no purchases. What has caught my eye? A few things. The Lento sweater by Jonna Hitala. I think I saw a podcast with the Italian knitter, and she had made one in Knitting for Olive, Merino, and also their soft silk mohair held double, so 3 strands of yarn in the colorway Autumn, and it looked really pretty, and that's a 15 stitch gauge, so that would be a very quick sweater. So it just caught my eye, looked really nice. I'm not going to make it anytime soon, but I was like, I think I'll add that to my favorites at least. And another one is, a thing that has caught my eye is the Lyon sweater by Petite Knit. I saw Katie from the Fruitful Hands was wearing it, and it's really nice white, or off-white sweater with some black stripes, and she knit it pretty close to the Petite Knit sort of colouring, and yeah, I like that look. So another into the favourites. And the last one, actually, I have to, it was by Sari Nordland. I just have to quickly look it up. Right, so it was the Colette pullover by Sari Nordland, and I saw it on Those Twins Who Knit. Rachel was wearing it, and it just looked really, really beautiful, really classic, really lovely. So I haven't actually even really dove into the pattern to take a look at, the yarn or anything. I just saw that she had, she was wearing it. Well, what had she used? She had used Knitting for Olive. Oh, so it's a merino and a soft silk mohair. Knitting for Olive merino in Nordic Beach and soft silk mohair in Marzipan. So yeah, that just looked really, really pretty. So I think I'd like to, that will be another thing in the, it doesn't make it to the queue straight away. It'll go to favorites. And then if I'm serious about it and I actually have yarn, or I find yarn, or I buy yarn, then it'll go into the queue. I need to do a bit of a queue resort, maybe move some things out of the queue into favorites. But anyway, those 3 are definitely into the favorites. That's what's caught my eye recently. Upcoming plans for this week is just to finish the armour sweater. I really would like that finished and photographed by the test knit end date. I am a very responsible individual. That is in my makeup. I feel very deeply commitments and like things that I've promised to do. I really try to get them done if I can, and if I can't, I understand. I'm not going to kill myself to do something, but if I promise to do something, I usually try to make sure it happens. So, and I know I've done enough to say done, like for what I'd sort of contracted to do, I guess. But I would like to get it finished. It's sort of a completion thing too. So, yeah, I don't think there's anything horrible about that. But sometimes if you take it too far, like anything, if you take anything too far, but I try to if possible. Right, so I think that's it for all of my kind of knitting and knitting related plans. I haven't done any other kind of craft, and there's no way I'm going to do like, there's things I want to sew. I had planned to warp up the loom in the last holidays, but once the term starts, anything kind of extra is just, and especially at the moment, I'm like flat out like a lizard drinking with commitments. So I don't see myself taking on any other kind of craft at the moment until maybe the school holidays. Yes, so I'm going to move on to personal stuff. So if you're leaving now, thank you so much for watching. And if you're sticking around, here's the extra blather. Right, so I've been really, really busy with work. I have just a lot on, but I love it. Like, I love my job. So they're all good things. The only thing that I'm not loving is this thing called Experience Teacher, where I have to document a lot of the stuff that I do and send it in. And I don't love the documenting so much. That's not the fun bit. But everything else that I do, like the lessons that I'm writing and the classes that I teach and the coaching that I'm doing, the extra learning for the Extension 2 maths, I love all that. So that's all good stuff. But yes, a lot on. But one good thing about that is some of the stuff that I've been doing, I've been like in Zoom meetings or watching YouTube videos of other teachers teaching stuff to give me ideas, and so I get to knit while I do that. So that's why I've like made quite a lot of progress on quite a lot of, even though I've been so busy. And then of course eventually I have to stop, and I've got lots of marking to do this afternoon, and I can't knit and mark at the same time. That would be a skill, but I can't. I actually have to be like, pen to paper, and also when I'm writing my lessons. So anyway, right, back to what I've been up to. I went for a really nice, just schoolwork. I went for a really nice walk on Saturday morning with my friend Amy, which was lovely. And I was going to record. You'll notice, maybe, I don't know if you noticed or not, I didn't do a tutorial on the weekend. I was going to do one, but on Saturday after I got back from my walk, my daughter Alex she was home and she's like, come in the pool, Mum. And, you know, initially I was like, no, I've got work to do and, you know, work, and I was going to record and whatever. And then I was like, you know, she's my 18-year-old daughter. She wants me to come in the pool with her. It's a beautiful hot day. I'm going to go in the pool. So we all went in and spent a couple of hours out by the pool. And yeah, it was really lovely. And then I did my work after that. So yeah, we've had really nice weather and it's been raining lately. But also on Sunday, I thought, maybe I'll record on Sunday. And then my son wanted me to come to his baseball game. And it was their last one of the season. So I was like, okay, I'll go to your baseball game. And I love going, but I was just like, I've got a lot of work to do. And I was like, he's 16. He's not going to be 16 for forever. And also his girlfriend wanted to come and she needed a ride. And I thought, okay, I'd like to be there for him. She'd like to come. She needs a ride there. So I picked her up and we went down. And I took this with me. So there's got a bit of baseball dirt in it. So it will need a good wash. Because I sort of sitting kind of behind home plate and it's like all this orange dirt, and when the guys come in and slide, it's just like a big cloud of orange dust. So yeah, I even, like, usually you can't really see it, it's just kind of in everything. But yeah, it's fine. Like, you know, I'll wash it at the end. I mean, it's going to get a block anyway, so all of that. So that's why this got so much work, because baseball game's about 2 hours. So yes, it was nice, and it was actually beautiful weather out there and watching him. And then last night I went to the Goo Dolls. So it was actually the Goo Dolls and Matchbox 20, but I was really there for Goo Dolls because they're more the band that I really like. And I think they were actually, well, I know they seemed really disappointed that the audience wasn't like super into them. And we were like quite way up in the stands, and there weren't, you know, like when it's the opening act, not a lot of people are coming, you know, people are still coming in because they're coming for the main act. And I was like, I would have liked to been down there, and there's all these empty seats. I could be down there now. But, and I, you know, I'd leave when Matchbox 20 came on, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I just like all their music actually, and I've been listening to them for a really long time. So yeah, that was good. Matchbox 20 was good too, but I just enjoyed Goo Dolls more, which is fine. And it wasn't too late at night. We got home around 11:30 p.m. So that's late. That's super late for me. I'm normally in bed at 9:30 p.m. But for a concert, that's like a half-hour drive away, and you usually end up spending like an hour in the car park trying to get out. So, but we were pretty lucky. We managed to get out. Like, we actually got out within maybe 5 minutes, which is a miracle, and home in half an hour. So, yeah, so, and today's my day off, obviously. Well, day off as in I don't have to go to work, but I've got a big pile of marking, which I will go to when I finish recording and editing this. As for what's coming up, my in-laws are arriving from the US on Friday. So today's Wednesday. So in 2 days. Wow, 2 days. So, and they're going to be here with us for a week. And I like, that makes me think, yes, I really need to get on and get some work done so that I can like free up a bit of time and spend time with them. I mean, obviously I can sit and chat with them and knit, but we usually like to go out and do stuff too. So yeah, so they'll be here for a week with us before they go on a big cruise somewhere. And also some friends of theirs as well are coming. They're not staying with us, but they're going to be in the city for a couple of days. So 2 other couples who I know quite well. So it'll be lovely to see them. And whenever they come, these are my in-laws, we play cards and we spend, you know, they are the most amazing in-laws. Like I adore them. They pretty much, this is like standard. They arrive, they have flown maybe 16 hours, 15. So it's like, you know, besides waiting in the airport or anything, they've flown like, you know, hours and hours and hours. They arrive, they might have a nap in the afternoon, and then they cook dinner for us, often going to the grocery store and cooking dinner for us on the day they arrive. I mean, they are amazing. And I just love spending time with them. They're really great for, like, they're my friends too, which is obviously really nice. So I'm very excited about them coming and getting to have a week with them, but it does make me think I need to get my work done. So I am just thinking at the moment, I want to put a heads up that I might not record next week. Like if I have time, I will, but it's quite possible that I won't. And I'm not really sure how best to let people know if I'm not going to record. I mean, I know you guys don't live for this weekly podcast, right? So, you know, let's be real. But I don't want anyone going, oh, I wonder when it's going to come out. So I guess I could put something on Instagram if I end up not recording, just to say there won't be one this week. I don't want to put out a 1 minute recording saying I'm not recording. That sounds funny. But I think maybe I'll just put an Instagram post if I'm not going to record for that week. And I will try and get that tutorial. There's so many tutorials I want to do. I'm not going to put pressure on myself. If I have time, I'll do it. If I don't, I won't. Like, I've got to do the best I can do. You know, like when my daughter asked me to go for a swim in the pool with her, and it was do that or record a tutorial, I'm going to go for a swim in the pool. So sometimes you can do both, but you can't always do everything. So, but I will do the things that I commit to, like that test knit. So, and I guess, you know, that's just part of my commitment as a mum, you know, being there for my kids. So actually, I haven't been sure about whether to mention this, but I think I will. So when my in-laws, Cindy's, my mother-in-law, when she comes, Alex and my daughter Alex, my daughter Mia, Cindy and I, we're all going together on Saturday and getting matching tattoos. So we're all going to get a dragonfly. I don't know if they won't necessarily all be exactly the same one, but we're all going to go together on Saturday afternoon and it won't be very big. I like tattoos. Not everybody does. So sorry if I've offended you. I know it does, like some people, maybe even in their culture, it's like not looked upon well. But I really like them. Both my girls have tattoos. I have one already. And I got that one when I was maybe 21, and I'm 50 now. So it's been a long time between tattoos. But when my daughter Alex asked, like, would I like to get matching tattoos? I was like, yeah, I really would. And my mother-in-law Cindy has always wanted to get one. So yes, so we're going on Saturday to get that. So, I don't know, like I'm not going to get it anywhere kind of revealing. I'm thinking probably getting it like maybe back here so that it will be when I wear a sleeveless top, you know, like something like the Stockholm Slipover, like that kind of, you know, band. Obviously not a strappy top, you'll see it, but like a top that I'd wear for work, sort of around here where you wouldn't necessarily see it. Yeah, I remember reading a book when I was younger, pretty young, Stranger in a Strange Land, and there was a character in there who was sort of fully tattooed, and just remember sort of reading it going, actually that's just their exterior, you know, that's not the person inside. And I don't know, there was something about it that just, and it's been like maybe more than 30 years since I read that book, but there was something in it that made me think, yeah, it's just all external, right? Like, and if you like it, doesn't change who you are. And if you like it and you think it's pretty. So yeah, so anyway, so that's what I'm doing on Saturday as well. Right, the only other thing that I was going to say is you might see my little list of, like my pile of books to read is getting bigger. Things aren't coming off, although Never Let Me Go is not here, not because I've finished it, but because my son's got it at the moment. But my friend, when I went on a walk with Amy, she lent me this book, and I don't know nothing about it except she read it and she recommended it. It's called Bright Shining, How Grace Changes Everything. It's not a Christian book. It's written by Julia Baird. The title might suggest it is, but it's not. I mean, not that I'm opposed to that, but I just know that's not everybody's faith background, right? So, but she really liked it. She said it was a really good thing. So, I mean, obviously grace is a word that's used a lot in Christian faith, but it's not exclusive to that. Yes, and I think grace is really important in life, giving each other grace to make mistakes. We're all human, giving ourselves grace. So Bright Shining, How Grace Changes Everything. So this lady wrote Phosphorescence, which apparently was a bestseller, Julia Baird. So that's another thing on my list. But yeah, that will be school holidays to work my way through that. Right, I always try to keep this short and then I prattle on for a while. Hope everyone is having a great week, and maybe I'll be back next week. If not, definitely 2 weeks. And I'll definitely have lots of yarn to show you because my in-laws are bringing some yarn for me that I ordered. Okay, all right, I'll see you soon. Bye.